Hello and welcome to another episode of the Culture Ultras podcast. It's me, James, with Theon, and we are joined today by founder of Streatham Rovers. It's Trevor Bastard, aka Robert Vaughan, everybody.
Hello.
How are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Pleasure to be on your podcast.
Thank you very much for coming on to it. I suppose we should start with Streatham Rovers. How did this come about?
It's the main thing is the colours, the purple and green colours. It's something I've been obsessed with ever since childhood, designing kits, and I'd always prefer to do purple and green ones because it felt like a unique colour scheme, and it went through many iterations from my childhood and teenage years. I would make teams on like FIFA and Pro Evolution. Then I sort of, after reading a bit too much China Mivel, I made up a sort of story about a steampunk football team who also played in purple and green, and then eventually, because I set a Twitter account up. I'd already done some sort of parody account stuff before on Twitter, but Streatham Rovers was the one that stuck.
I think I fell for a few. I can't remember exact examples, but I've definitely fallen through it for a few times. No.
Yeah, it's interesting how many people fall for it. It's never really like my intention, but it's also quite fun when it happens, when the things go viral, because I don't know. It's like looking at you've probably seen this yourselves. Like you had the success with the Manchester street poetry derby night. There is something quite exciting about seeing the notifications come through. And the bigger retweet gets, the more extreme the reactions to it tend to get.
Oh yeah, well, I had a good friend of mine, Joe Nolan, to call me as unoriginal as Paddy Power about 20 minutes before we started this, because I slagged off City. But not for the sketch, for something else. But yeah, there you go, Joe. I've weaseled you in. You won't be watching, told me as much, but still. Yeah, it always tends to freeze. Like, just freeze your phone and just make everything fucked, because there's like 700 people calling you a twat.
Yeah. The purple and green things are really. I don't think I've ever seen that before ever on a football shirt.
Is there many purples? Or, like, I know you got Fiorentina.
Purple tends to be the colour of fictional teams. Like you get the Dream Team thing on Sky. They were purple.
Yeah.
There's other examples which I've kind of forgotten. I think a few from kids' TV and stuff.
Your very own Kyoto Sanger, James, playing purple, of course.
Yeah, that's true.
Hometown boy, Kyoto.
But yeah, so yeah, purple and green. I mean, you get like the Wimbledon tennis competition. They use purple and green. They use the wrong purple though. The purple, they've got a purple that's more on the blue side of purple, whereas I prefer the sort of ones a bit more reddy or pink. That's the one that works well with green, and the tennis people have got it completely wrong.
You're more of a joker than a bottle of Highland Spring.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff.
More Lucozade Sport, less white wine spritzer.
It's great. I think you've kind of encapsulated what many sort of young kids were doing who were obsessed with football. I used to design kits a lot. I think now you can do that quite easy on like apps and stuff and computer, but like just the physical ability to draw things. I remember I used to sort of fantasize about drawing Liverpool kits and have them sponsored by McDonald's or KFC because I thought that was really cool.
It always makes me laugh when you see people's efforts online. lots of creative effort into designing like a Liverpool team kit, and then just put the shittest sponsor imaginable on. So, I think I saw someone do a very nice Blackburn Rovers one, and they did choose to put KFC on it. I was going to. Surely, if it's your fantasy kit, you're going to choose something better than KFC, or to have it be sponsorless.
Yeah, sponsorless is the way forward, I reckon.
Or one of the things I like about the Streatham shirts is I kind of have my cake and eat it, having the sponsorship logos, but they're all made up and they're all piss takes.
Well, it's like, Newcastle's is, because nobody's ever, like, the company that sponsors them made about 20 quid last year. And it's it's definitely not a front.
There's a Manchester City, like, is it gambling partner or something? With all their accounts have about 5 followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of them. I think it was Wolves or someone like that. Maybe Crystal Palace had I think a few of them had like Chinese betting companies that you couldn't. The only reason they sponsored the club was to get viewers in like China who can't gamble legally to go on like VPNs and then bet on a company that only exists in Macau or whatever. And it's just like a load of Chinese writing and then bet. What a sponsor that is.
You've reached a stage where most Premier League sponsors are companies I've not initially heard of, like the Man United one, Team. Never heard of it. And apparently, it's primarily used by drug dealers.
Oh,
it's some sort of online communication tool, and it's used for like big-time drug trades.
Oh, wow!
I don't think
Team Viewer.
This might be libelous, actually. What I've just said, but yeah, I'm sure Team Viewer have very, very many legal uses as well.
Well, we're sponsored by Standard Chartered, and I think they're an investment bank that not one person will ever use. I don't think.
They're useless. They're like it's just like one of them sort of soulless ones, isn't it?
Didn't they have the advert with the CGI Bob Paisley?
Yeah.
That was
great move.
One of the taggiest things I've seen in football.
One of my favourite ones was the Man United.
Sorry, mate, go on.
One of my favourite ones was the Man United tie-in with the Independence Day sequel, and Jeff Goldblum complimented Juan Mata on his ability to shoot down an alien space. Great shooting, Juan. Thank you,
Juan. Your midfielders were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
I think it would have been quite good if they'd got a spaceship to destroy Old Trafford.
Yeah. Yeah. Then they have to build a new stadium.
Yeah.
Speaking of United, you said on the sort of the pre-show notes you supported them until the sort of until the Glazers sort of, was it Glazer involvement, or were you just
it was growing up in South London, obviously I had to support Manchester United. My mum had supported them since the 60s, since George Best, and she'd actually gone to matches properly and stuff in the 60s and 70s, and so I was brought up as a United fan, and I began to drift away slowly after Cantona retired, but it was a very gradual process, and I sort of had a growing sense that there was more to football than being a long-distance fan of a big club, especially as, I mean, when I was like 9, 10, 11, we could easily go to London away games. You could still just about turn up on the day and get a ticket in the home end. So me and my mum would do that for several years. Then it got much harder, because I started in 1990, which coincided with United becoming incredibly successful. even more popular than they were. And so it became impossible to get away tickets. I think also clubs had started tightening up on not allowing away fans into the home end as well.
Yeah.
Even small, lovely children like me. And so it reached a point where I hadn't been to a game for years. And then the Glazer takeover gave me a sort of reason or excuse to sort of boycott it. A lot of people said they were going to boycott the club if the Glazer takeover took place, and then didn't. There was of course the FC United of Manchester thing, which I was a founding member of.
Wow.
But living down south as I did at the time, you can't really follow a non-league side from long distance. But yeah, so I spent some years in the wilderness, sort of paid a bit of attention to European football. Went along to watch. I lived in Plymouth for a few years. I watched Argyle occasionally. It was kind of, I was working a minimum wage job, and it was like, even in like the 2000s, it was like 20 quid a ticket. So I didn't go often enough to catch the bug, which is a shame because there's a lot to be said for Argyle. I like the fact they're playing green. I like the fact they can chant "You dirty northern bastards" at like London clubs and stuff. That was always amusing. So there's a lot to be said for it, but I just couldn't afford to go regularly enough. And yeah, I eventually started watching non-league football when I moved back to London.
It must. I always feel for Argyle fans because you must literally. It's Exeter is 2 hours away. Everyone thinks of it as like the local derby. It's like for away days. You have to. It does take a fair bit of doing. So fair play to the Argyle.
And also, the club has always failed to make most of its sort of monopoly on young players in the country. Trevor Francis was from Plymouth. So he joined the City.
Yeah.
The great Rory Fallon.
Oh yeah.
So, in terms of Dulwich Hamlet, then was that sort of alongside United, or did you end up following them?
No, I started going nearly 15 years ago, before they became weirdly famous, which I probably played a role in. I was like the first one to start making stickers, stuff like scarves and stuff like that.
Brewdog Dulwich, thanks you very much for that. There you go.
What? Sorry, what?
I was saying Brewdog Dulwich, the new Dulwich branch of Brewdog. Well, thank you very much for that. I know I do like Dulwich Hamlet. It's just funny to call everything that's a bit like everything that has sort of a working class sort of left wing culture. Even though, despite the hammer and sickle tattooed on it, it is funny to call every sort of nice left wing club Brewdog drinkers. So,
they're probably, I guess, the modern stereotypical Danish fan with two songs up.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a lot of weird change, which people say I was indirectly responsible for it, which is a bit weird. It's very strange. I never would have imagined, if you told me 12 years ago, what me and a small number of people were doing, being whipping ourselves up into wild enthusiasm about an 8th tier football club, was going to lead to people all over the country not only knowing who they are but getting sort of angry at the fact they exist. It was
anything that pisses off Facebook does, is correct.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I do enjoy winding up a certain kind of person. But yeah, I was also surprised at some of the reaction, fans of league clubs, who are say a generation older than me, when Doge first started getting like mentioned in like The Guardian and Vice and stuff, seeing the comments and them being furious and I always kind of thought, you were going to football in the 80s and 90s when there was these huge price rises. Do you not think by failing to do anything about that, you create a situation in which idiotic 20-somethings were ending up going to non-league football and then just like taking over and mutating into something else? Like, of course, once upon a time, we would have all on supporting league clubs.
I think as well, just as like with the Champions League news today, because I play Football Manager, I obviously knew that this was happening before today. But like that new league system where it basically just keeps every poor performing big club in the Champions League still, barring relegation, basically. I think I know. I used to care very much about Middlesbrough getting promoted back to the Premier League. I no longer do, because at least it's like, because all that's going to happen to them if we go up is we're going to get beat 31 times, and maybe claw out way to safety with 23 points or something. But it's just, I think like non-league stuff. Like I've going to Altrincham with my dad as I have done for years. I've noticed that get bigger and bigger and bigger, especially the last few years, just because everybody's fucking bored of pure corporate football, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's something that maybe, like you were saying before, like maybe 15, 20 years ago, you'd kind of be like outcasted for or sort of shunned away, whereas now, you can still watch a great game of footy for a price that's, affordable.
Yeah.
And you help that club. But it's a shame that like the decision behind that is, on the one hand, it is people being pushed away from, a childhood club. But then at the same time, it does put more eyes. People are doing something, which is a good sign.
Yeah. I'm not sure like what the average is like in English non-league at the moment. But I know in Northern Ireland where I live now, where football's basically sort of non-league in terms of like attendances and money involved. Like the attendances have risen a lot since COVID. Because the experience of lockdown made people hunger for some sort of social activity more.
Yeah.
Also, I presume people, because people here predominantly support big Premier League clubs.
Yeah.
It's
Ireland's usually the choice of United, Liverpool, some weird ones support Everton, and some people whose dads like Liam Brady support Arsenal. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, you have to surely not being turned off it as well.
Well, with the new Champions or new European system, I wonder if it impacts that sort of ability that clubs in Wales and Scotland and Ireland, Northern Ireland have, where you win your domestic league and then have the opportunity to enter sort of a very base level qualifying round. But you could end up playing someone like, I think, club by me, Connors Key Nomads ended up playing Partizan Belgrade.
Yeah.
Or like,
I was going to go to that.
Yeah, you missed it.
I think what does happen is when you have the big four clubs and they don't get much money from their brief forays into the European qualifying rounds. But at that level, it's a huge distorting effect, which enables them to become more powerful. I think that's quite common in smaller European leagues in general. The ones who are nowhere near the actual Champions League proper have nevertheless managed to sort of become incredibly dominant.
Well, it's like Ludogorets in Bulgaria, which is a team run by the mafia and a fake team as well. It's from like 2002 or something. Like they've won I think they've won the domestic title 14 times in a row by miles as well. Not been close once.
Yeah.
No, it's just gonna. It's like you could say it with Bayern though as well. I mean, until this season,
Yeah, it's a good
they're
point.
not far from 14. Same for Juventus; they had
Yeah.
12 years or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sometimes think like the Glazers saved English football from that.
No,
Like,
do you think?
like hate the Glazers, hate the state-owned rival clubs and stuff, but it has kind of stopped a situation where a sort of semi-retired Alex Ferguson would still be winning title after title.
No.
Speaking of Dulwich Hamlet, your cult hero now. Obviously gave Peter Crouch his start, but your cult hero, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Eren Otzuma.
Herman
What?
Yeah, the Turkish Messi. He played for Dulwich for 2 years. It was a miraculously stayed beyond the first year. I think it's because he's so small. I think he claims to be 5'3", but I've seen him stood next to my wife, who's 4'10", and he wasn't that much taller. But he was the most skillful player I've ever seen relative to who he had to play with and against. So, like, it was, and I think football was at its most attractive when a skillful attacking player is playing with and against players below him, because it's such a contrast. You see them improving other players. You see them humiliating opponents. He was so overpowered for that level, particularly in the season and the 8th tier, that he was kind of playing two positions. He was sort of playing the sort of wide attacker on a front three and the sort of attacking midfielder. It was joyous to watch. He was very determined as well. You'll get very skillful players who aren't quite switched on. Maybe will be pissed off that they're playing at such a lower level and stuff. But he was really, really hungry and tenacious. And he was, in many ways, responsible for inspiring a small number of new fans to really, really get overly enthusiastic about Dulwich Hamlet. And so, without Erhan, I don't think you would have heard of Dulwich Hamlet.
No, yeah. He did win me Erhan Öztürk when he was playing for Walsall. I believe scored a late equaliser to win me a grand once. So really? I like him as well. But it was definitely. I think it was like 2-2 draw at home. They were losing 2-0, and Erhan Öztürk he had scored one or scored both. Can't quite remember, but yeah.
He did well at Walsall, but he then moved, the other clubs he subsequently moved to, it didn't seem to work out, and I think he's playing in the Turkish Cypriot League now.
Oof.
But I have these little fantasies that one day I'll turn up to Dundela, the second tier team in East Belfast, so I support now, and they'll have signed him. And for some reason, I would have missed any mention of this on social media. And then that's just
oh my god!
Football dream. Never happened.
I think
it will do.
What's great when people describe, or we've asked them to describe cult heroes, the sense that don't want to use a cliche, but you had to be the kind of thing. I think it's very difficult for fans of big clubs to describe a cult hero because there's a different level. For example, I loved Fabio Aurelio, but there's a different sort of level where it is that type of player that comes in for 1 or 2 seasons and It's got like a summer fling basically in many ways.
You Joseph Desiree Jobs. Your Massimo Macaronis.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, because for instance, for Borough, right? Because we have like in the greatest attack ever assembled, and I will fight any man. Massimo Macaroni, Mark Viduka, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, Jakubu. 4. Look at that. I mean, that's what the woke mob have taken from us as well. 4 strikers in one team, like because they used to play 2 up front. None of this fucking 1 shite. 2 up front, and then because at Borough, when we came back to beat Stour and Basel, we had all 4 of them on the pitch at the same time. We were Steve McLaren, Ferenc Pushkashin, Romanian clubs. Come on. What more do you want? Oh, well.
Are you all right? You feel better after that?
Yeah. Stuck it to the woke mob of 1 up front.
Well, the same about Dulwich Chamberlain and Mark Viduka might be there one day.
Oh yeah, imagine. Oh no, I've told you, James. We need to do. He runs a cafe in Zagreb, and we need to go and just sit there all day until he turns up. Luka Modric apparently lives like 2 or 3 doors down from it as well.
Wow,
it's quite a nice neighbourhood, obviously.
Did you watch the Peter Crouch? I don't know what the name of the documentary was called, but where he tries to invest. Did he try to invest money back into Dulwich Hamlet or something?
I didn't watch it. But I gather it was what would the word be? I don't think he was investing in anything. I think it was set up a lot. He came to the club for, I don't know, a few days. This is after my time. But yeah, I don't think he was as involved as it suggests he was. And yeah, a lot of people were quite unhappy about it. I think there was some scene that got people to turn up for something under false pretences, and it turned out it was the unveiling announcement that Peter Crouch was going to be in this recording this program. Some of the people were being sort of convinced to be extras against their will. Were very pissed off about it.
I've always thought with Peter Crouch there should be like, because he's from Macclesfield. Not a lot of people know that, but I do, because the sticker books used to tell you where people were from, which you don't get that anymore. Again, that's another thing they've taken from us. Stickers with players' places of birth on them. Like they've got all the shit about Ian Curtis, right, in Macclesfield. Fuck Joy Division. Peter Crouch is more culturally significant, I would say. You know, there you go. That's my 2 cents on the matter.
Very
Joy Division. It's weird. When I first heard Joy Division, it was like 3 a.m. on some MTV alternative music show. And they played Transmission. I was about 15. I'd never heard it before, and I went to a shop. I went to several record shops to try and get Joy Division albums, and they didn't have them.
No.
Now you can get like oven gloves with the Unknown Pleasures artwork. It's just weird.
Yeah.
They've become part of the canon of
British. The wallpaper.
The brilliant half man off biscuit Joy Division oven gloves. I once wrote a poem in the style of the Unknown Pleasures album cover, which prompted my English teacher to phone my parents and ask if I was okay. But I'm trying to make this Joy Division link there from disorder to order.
Yeah. Come on. What we're playing the game for?
Dundela FC. What's it like following the sort of the Northern Irish League?
It is a drop in quality. Which I don't mind. I think once you accept that it's good to watch football where people are playing like the quality of football doesn't matter. It is noticeable. Because like non-league clubs are like full of players who've done like significant parts of their childhood in professional academies nowadays. So like they can, and you notice it in the ability to pass and control, positional awareness and stuff. Weirdly, the fans are more interested in English football than the crowds of English non-league football clubs are. People spend a lot of time talking about like their English club. There's a weird number of Leeds fans at Dundela. like stop talking about Leeds. I'm too polite to say it, but I'm like, I wish they'd stop going on about Leeds. Don't care about Leeds. But what is interesting about it is what is interesting about Northern Irish football. There's less clubs as well. Like one of the things I liked about non-league in England is it just seems to go on forever. There's like thousands of clubs, and like that's kind of exciting. Like also you have like smaller divisions. You know, you do a whole playing teams 4 times a year thing, like in Scotland. That's
I think the best.
What's really good about Dundela is more than any club in England that I visited is it's really the ground is really urban. It's really squeezed into this neighbourhood in East Belfast. They're actually not allowed to be promoted, even though they're top of the second tier at the moment, because their pitch is 4.5 metres too narrow. Because it's also squeezed into the city, and it's a shame because most other clubs at that level, you sort of feel you go and you have to visit an industrial estate on the outskirts of a town or city to watch it. And so I think what they lose in having a pitch that's too narrow, they make up for in having a Tesco Express within 20 metres of the turnstile.
Lovely.
Oh, that's a bucket list one. I have to do that, James. That's an away day.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you take a meal deal into the home stands?
Yeah. I have taken a meal deal sometimes when I've thought I'd like to have a cold coffee rather than a pint. I will, and then you see it's only like 90p more to get a sandwich and Merry Crisps. I'll get the meal deal. There are there's a very good chippy called Codzilla.
That's good. It's a good name. Strong name. It's a very strong name.
Yeah, we'll add that to the list, Dion.
Oh yeah, that can go on.
In terms of like, I suppose it probably never will compare to GAA, but like sort of on the par, or is it rising? No, attendances have increased.
Well, I mean, obviously Ulster is particularly like this bit of Ulster is not the GAA heartlands because like half the people don't really play.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant to say. Sorry, Trevor. The fucking the Glenfield's kit a couple of years ago, where it was the literal UVF flag.
Yeah, Linfield. Yeah, they claimed it wasn't. But the funny thing is, we live quite near to a UVF mural, which is very stark purple and orange. And I'd always walk past it and kind of think, those colours are really good. That would be a good football. But then, when Liverpool did it, I guess it was like the Umbro template shades, but the shades didn't quite work, and it was like, on the one hand, this is bad because it's glorifying paramilitaries. On the other hand, it's even worse because you've got the colours slightly wrong and it doesn't work. But yeah, they fucked it up.
Not known for the unionists.
Yeah, the thing about GAA is, I think you do notice, because there's less Catholic football clubs than proportionally there should be, and I think a lot of the energy goes into GAA, which is fair enough. But I guess it hampers the spread of football clubs. I'm not surprised. Like
stops Cal Lafferty going to Palermo.
Yeah.
Wrong side, James, but never mind.
But yeah, there was a fairly new GAA team in East Belfast. East Belfast's the very Protestant area, and East Belfast GAA, it causes all sorts of commotion amongst hardened loyalists, raging about the IRA sympathising sport coming into East Belfast. But,
it's just it's very funny. Very funny you mistook Kyle Lafferty, one of the most Orangeman footballers.
Yeah. I was thinking more as a whole. Alan's put his foot in it again.
Kyle Rafferty, more like.
When he was playing for Palermo, the Palermo's owner kept referring to him as a stereotypical Irishman, and I wondered how he felt about that.
Yeah, he'd have been raging. It's just sort of like we were saying that the other day, James. Was it Paolo? He played with Paolo Dybala and Cavani. Kyle Lafferty.
That's mental.
Yeah. Shite as well.
Before there's a story here. I don't know how much you're allowed to talk about it, but the scarf debacle with Stuart Lee. How much are you allowed to say about that?
Well, I made and sold, because I've got some Streatham Rovers merch which I sell, and so I've got a little web shop. I made some England style scarves of his famous routine. These days, what is the actual word?
These days, if you say you're English, you get arrested and thrown in jail.
Yeah.
And so I put on a scarf, and it looked great. It looked like an England scarf, which I think really helped. There was a little image of the Monopoly go straight to jail man, and one of the 3 lions wearing handcuffs. And I sold those, and they were very popular. By far and away, my most popular thing I've ever sold there, much more than my weird fictional football club and Enya fans for communism stuff. And it actually, so I did sort of a repeat order, and loads of people bought them, and it was actually the one time the web shop has threatened to actually be an actual proper income stream for me. But then Stuart Lee got in touch, and he was very complimentary. He said it was a great idea, a great marriage of style and form, and but he also told me very clearly he wanted me to stop selling them. And yeah, he sent very, very long, rambling emails in which he referred to me as Scarf Man, all in capitals. And he wrote in such a way that it made me think that either he's permanently thinking in terms of what could be standard material,
He will be.
Because
Have you ever spent time with someone like James Allen? Yes, they are.
either that or that he wasn't actually at all, and he actually did it.
Yeah.
So I stopped. Yeah, it's a
It's a
shame.
shame.
Because I'd like to carry on saying them.
I'll just do it. And I hope he does. I'd just do it. Fucking. What's he gonna do? Just whinge on in a 25-minute show.
What is he? Like, I don't know. Believe the game. It's like Stuart Lee's heavies beating me up.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I fucking will do it again. I'm not, like,
Do it again. Do it again for the Euros,
I'm
definitely.
still home parent, but my 3-year-old's now going to like and stuff, so I'm having to look for a job. But maybe I should just copy around. Yeah, so yeah, Scarfman. Yeah, they were
Scarfman.
very long, rambling emails, but my wife told me off when I tweeted about some of the material and forced me to delete the tweets. So I don't want to be cancelled by my wife again.
Yeah, like Fionn says, maybe come Euros time, we might reach might reach a deal. Thank you so much for going. Probably that's been fantastic, Rob. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. Again, just your concept of designing it, especially the unique color of purple and green as well, is something that I don't think a lot of clubs have done, or perhaps maybe should try that out. Maybe sort of QPR style horizontal hoop kind of thing. But yeah, I really like what you've done with Streatham Rovers. I think it's fantastic. Whereabouts can people find you on social media?
Streatham Rovers on Twitter. It's also on Instagram and Facebook. I'm really lazy with the Facebook one, so yeah, I think that's it. There's also there's a number of like associated accounts. There's a fake news website called Bazaki Media, which is BAZAKE, which is that's a collaborative one. Yeah, I should really memorize all this stuff to like opportunities to promote myself. But yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. You can follow us at Cultures Pod on Instagram and Twitter, but definitely give Robert and Streatham Rovers a follow because you won't regret it. We'll be back next week with another episode. But Robert, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Cheers. Thank you, mate.